Hi class, I'm going to go over my PowerPoint on the Claudette Colvin case. First, I'd like to say that I thought it was interesting that I never heard about this from any teachers or professors before this class. I had literally virtually no clue um, that this had happened before Rosa Parks, so I thought it was very interesting to learn about this. Let's get started. Okay, so Claudette Colvin was born on September 5th, 1939, in Montgomery, Alabama. She was 15 at the time of the Montgomery bus incident. So, this happened on March 2nd, 1955. And what happened was prior to Rosa Parks, Claudette Colvin was arrested for not giving her seat up to a white woman on a bus and claimed that it was she claimed that it was her constitutional right to sit there. Um, so she ended up getting arrested. She went to jail and she was bailed out. So obviously the reason she had to give up her seat was due to the Jim Crow laws and segregation in the South during this period of time. So Claudette Colvin's attorney for her case actually thought that her story might be worthy of the NAACP's attention because they were looking for a story to argue against segregation that was happening in the South. The NAACP ended up turning the case down. They said that it was because she wasn't the right spokesperson, um, and they opted to wait for another case. One of the other reasons that was mentioned was that she was only 15. She became pregnant a few months later. They thought that she was unreliable because she was a teenager. Um, in a few interviews, Claudette talked about how she believed they actually turned her down because of her dark complexion. And I read something where her mother actually told her to basically be quiet about the whole incident and let Rosa Parks, after the Rosa Parks story came out, let Rosa Parks be the spokesperson for it because white people liked her, basically, is what the mom told Claudette. So Claudette ended up being a plaintiff in the legal case Browder v. Gale, which ultimately helped end segregation on the Montgomery buses. So during the time of the Claudette Colvin case, I did find out that Rosa Parks was a secretary at the NAACP. I couldn't find any proof of Rosa Parks being the one who actually picked up the phone when Claudette Colvin called or when her lawyer called to hear the original case, or that the NAACP decided to recreate Claudette's case using Rosa Parks, their secretary. Some people think that's the case, and it's definitely a possibility because Rosa Parks obviously knew of Claudette's situation and what she had done. She was the more moral person, morally liked of the two, and that's what actually a spokesperson of NAACP said about Rosa Parks, was that she was the more, likely choice. Um, I also think if more people knew about Claudette Colvin's story, because like I mentioned, I had no clue at all about this before this class. Um, I think she should be mentioned, and she would be mentioned if more people knew about it, along with Rosa Parks, um, for the Montgomery bus situation and how they handled that. And I think that Claudette should be obviously mentioned and talked about in schools. I feel like teachers should be educated about this because not one teacher during all my years of education ever said something. And I thought that Rosa Parks was the one that sparked the movement. I don't think that it takes away from the Rosa Parks story. I think that was a story in its own, but I do believe if Claudette Colvin's story had come out more publicly first and she was the face behind the movement, then Rosa Parks wouldn't have necessarily been as big of a story nationally and worldwide like um, her story is. So, my question to the class, do you think Rosa Parks should be as well known as she is for the Montgomery bus movement, or do you think Claudette Colvin's story should be taught more often? Obviously, Rosa Parks had a big role. She was also an activist. Claudette was an activist, but do you think that Claudette Colvin's story needs to be brought up more and more people should know about what happened and that she was actually 9 months prior to Rosa Parks' incident? Thank you for watching.